Going, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Crypto Clout, Ni Hao, and all that, no matter where you're watching. But I think that it's more relevant now more than ever when we're seeing the news that's happening right now involving Bitcoin. I'd also like to discuss Cardano and the likelihood of seeing altcoin season, in particular seeing cryptocurrency like Cardano break out from the rest of the herd. I would say the probability increases by the day. We're going to be talking about Cardano Shelley incentivized testnet will launch in November, which is some pretty incredible news, very exciting stuff happening. And of course, on the tip of everybody's tongue, what you guys have been wanting me to cover. I know that I've been pretty much slacking on the uploads lately, but we'll be getting back into the rhythm of the daily uploads, so don't you worry, stay subscribed and all that. But 4 days remain for 16K Bitcoin price 4chan prophecy, now possible, question mark. This is pretty interesting, and I suppose that we'll pay a little bit of attention to that as well, especially what we've been seeing in the short term. Bitcoin had a wild weekend, briefly topping 10,000. China's Xi saying blockchain's praises, and this will be very interesting to see how these different aspects of the space continue to play themselves out in the overall long-term perspective. I remain very bullish on my picks. I'm very interested in seeing in particular what Cardano is going to do. As far as separating itself from the rest of the herd in terms of being an altcoin, really sort of reshaping how we define what an altcoin is, and of course, sort of looking into the future. So we got a number of news stories right here to talk about. Crypto Insider here really driving massive Bitcoin rally, plus Ripple XRP, Ethereum, and Cardano updates. So this is interesting. Of course, President Xi, supporting blockchain, getting everybody which way all around the world has to turn attention to cryptocurrency now more than ever. And I think that there's plenty of people out there who are sort of eating their words when they're talking about, the fact that there's been plenty of people who've been able to ignore cryptocurrency up until this point. But that day, that window of blissful ignorance that many had clung on to is slowly but surely diminishing into the dust and being relegated to the dustbin of the financial space, and Bitcoin rising in the subsequent wake. And of course, in that same notion, we're seeing a pretty interesting development all around with Bitcoin, and especially the altcoin space in particular. And I think it's going to be a very interesting end of 2019, and I think the beginning of 2020 is going to be bringing very, very interesting upheaval to the conversation that's been developing in the cryptocurrency space. And in particular, it's going to be interesting to see how blockchain, and of course, Cardano being very significant in that sort of dialogue, the discussion that we're seeing happening, developing right now is very interesting to see. Cardano partners with COTI to develop ADA payment gateway for 35 fiat currencies. This stuff is happening, people. Right in front of our eyes. We're every single day seeing very major developments happening in the cryptocurrency space. It might not be reflected by the price in particular. Some of it is, but at the same time, it still is very interesting. We are witnessing the likes of which a paradigm shift that the world has really never seen, and the future is looking more promising for payments, and that's true. The platform supports extreme scalability and low transaction costs. The Cardano Foundation believes it could become an all-in-one payment solution for merchants. So this will be very interesting to see, and it's that I think Cardano will be first to the gate with. In particular, like we've been seeing Cardano being picked, by as a sort of the go-to, sort of almost randomly out of the blue. Random if you haven't really been doing your research, but I think that it's very strategic as it's basically played out. This is what we talk about on this channel. Every single video we're on here discussing Cardano, and really the fact that Cardano has been able to make some of these interesting headway as far as scientific and academic credentials, which will definitely go a long way in proving the Cardano's worth, which I find as sort of an arbitrary point. I think that the potential for a Cardano Bullrun is very much right around the corner, and I think that the days of seeing 0.04, seeing a Cardano valued at this level of Satoshi. I think that these days will soon be history, much the same way that the value of Bitcoin currently being where it is will, of course, be one of those interesting topics that we'll all be telling our grandchildren about at some point or another. So, overall, it is interesting to see how the space has been making a lot of these different developments in the short term. But, what about the long term? What are we going to be seeing when we want to talk about what Cardano is actually going to be bringing to the table? As we see the cryptocurrency space developing, and as we see more along the lines of Bitcoin being acquainted to the public, and this conversation as it continues to develop. It is interesting. I think we look towards Charles Hoskinson. We look at the team. What Cardano is actually bringing to the forefront at this point. And it is a very interesting fork in the road that we find ourselves at right now. And in short, this will be something that we tell our grandchildren about. So, without any further ado, we've got stake pools. Operators should be comfortable with command line interface and have some system operations and server administration skills. It will be interesting to see. So, just in broader news, McAfee will overtake Binance, claims John McAfee, but of course, he's a funny guy. John McAfee, gotta love him, hate him or love him. He is a funny dude, really does exemplify cryptocurrency as a single person. I don't think any person better shows us a real Bitcoin dude as much as John McAfee. That's beside the point. Instant rewards on why African countries lead in Bitcoin searches and what it means for adoption. This is what I wanted to talk about, as far as developing countries go, and, red tape that exists in like the United States, and how that's going to be sort of a barrier for development, holding back. I think that it's developing nations that really stand to get that sort of quantum leap advantage when we want to look at what cryptocurrency poses as far as just really unbanking the unbanked, and of course Cardano with what they've done as far as aiming towards these areas of the world which have this potential. It is very vast in scope, and I think that it's really going to be making an interesting wave on the space. Of course, with all these people now having access to the internet and cell phones and all these things, does sort of show us more people going online, more aspects of the cryptocurrency space being able to integrate in that same way, and it means a lot for blockchain. As blockchain is now one of the fastest growing opportunities in the world right now. It will be very interesting to see how a lot of these different variables play out. And I predict a perfect storm in favor of the ones that are able to get to the space first. And I think the Cardano has had an excellent strategy thus far, positioning themselves the way that they are, and I think that it will be very interesting to see how these things play out. But of course, remember, this video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. Of course, this video is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your dad. Merely making this video for our own amusement. So, of course, comment down below letting us know what your opinions are. Then we'd like to hear them. And make sure that you guys subscribe below and let us know what you think. Hope you guys have enjoyed this content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. And of course, just briefly discussing Ethereum, I mean, I think that it is a perfect example. I mean, that sort of does validate a lot of the points that I made in this video, and I think I did cover a lot of the important topics that I wanted to discuss. But in the future, we will be plugging Ethereum into this model and further exploring this sort of idea. But yeah, have a good one, everybody.